Welcome to the Love the Star podcast. I'm Bobby Belt, Dallas Cowboys insider for 105 through the Fan of Dallas, joined as always by former Super Bowl winning NFL scout Brian Broaddus. He is now the co-host of the G-Bag Nation, 2 to 7 p.m. Central, Monday through Friday on 105 through the Fan of Dallas. He is also the pre- and post-game co-host on the Dallas Cowboys radio network. And Brian, I want to start off the show today. First off, happy opening day week. The world champion Texas Rangers are starting their season this week against the Chicago Cubs. I know we are the home of where we're at on 105.3. We're the home of it. I mean, you can always catch it on TV. I'm sure like at ESPN or Bally, whatever. But like, I mean, we are the home there at 105 through the Fan. So we're very proud of that. Excited for that. So happy opening day week. I have a quick question for you though. It's a little bit of a biographical question for you. Okay,
go ahead.
What would you say was the biggest hindrance for the scouting staff that you worked with in Dallas? What would you say is the biggest thing that prevented you guys from having as much success as possible? What would you say it was?
We listened to too many people. We let outside people influence what we did in that draft room. And this, I think, it goes back. Larry Lacewell, my boss, who was a wonderful man. He's no longer with us. He gave me an opportunity to come to Dallas, work for my hometown team. I'll always be indebted for him for that. I'd been in different places. I'd been in Green Bay, I'd been in Philly, and I'd been in Jacksonville. And it seemed like to me that we never, ever let outside influences dictate how we did business. And this was something that Jerry Jones, I think, had to learn along the way. And whether it was Tom Siskowski, Jeff Ireland, or even Will McClay, that's become a lot different. I remember times when the whole thing, the last time I was in a war room was 2005 with the Cowboys. But I just remember previous that we'd be in a draft room and we're talking about Drew Henson. I always talk about the Drew Henson stories because that's the one that was kind of crazy. And I always remember Gene Michael, and it's funny you say baseball. Gene Michael was a general manager of the New York Yankees. Mm-hmm. And we've got the general manager of the New York Yankees telling us about the type of player, athlete, whatever that Drew Henson was, and you could watch the tape and kind of see, but here we are. I mean, I wanted to speak up and say, hey, Stick, by the way, you got this guy named Mariano Rivera you might want to use as a reliever, to maybe he'll win you some games and maybe some championships. But that's the kind of, we always dealt with Chad Hutchinson was another one. Dana Bible was coaching at Stanford and then coached at Boston College. And, we were always listening to the outside voice.
Really trying to find in pursuit of a quarterback, though, right?
Not
with Henson or
Goodrich,
Hutchinson or
Dwayne Goodrich. Henry Schroka, who's on the pro personnel department right now. Henry Schroka was an area scout, and he went and did Dwayne Goodrich at Tennessee. And he had all these things about the player. He was struggling with injury. He didn't work out well. He, had back problems. And Henry, and I just remember Henry going on and on and on and on about the player. But Lacewell trusted a guy who was a defensive coordinator at Tennessee, and so all of a sudden, he's telling us about the player and everybody's like, well, if Chief is saying that to us, we sure need to, and I looked at Henry and I go, Henry, you've got this guy nailed, and he's like, Brian, the room, just the room, and there's a scout that had an awareness about what was going on and the direction that the room was going. But Henry had the player right, Yeah. But that's how a room sometimes, but we're listening to John Chavis the defensive coordinator at Tennessee sell us on a player. And it's like, but wait a minute, our scouts, Walter Juliff, Henry Schroka, you guys went to Tennessee. You saw the player. Drew Fabianich, you went to Tennessee. You worked at Tennessee.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, it was so many times. And listen, we had problems. I'm not trying to, I'm not Pontius Pilate here, like wiping my hands off, like that. I'm just telling you, we had our problems. But the biggest problem we had is we did not trust what we saw with our own eyes and the report that we had with our own, the notes that we were taking. I used to listen to scouts talk. I was in pro personnel. I was listening, so I always took notes. I was always taking notes. And I just remember typing all my notes up, and we'd go back and talk about a player, and I'm like, man, we didn't say that about this guy. This is what we said. And that was the hardest thing for me to ever deal with, because the places I had been before, it was about the 10 guys in that room. It was about, okay, you got this player and you got this player and you got this player, and tell me about this guy. It was never, hell, they'll tell you about DeMarco Murray. They'll tell you about DeMarco Murray. Like the scouts did a lot of work on DeMarco Murray at Oklahoma. And the first thing that Jerry Jones says is, that Barry Switzer gave us a great scouting report on DeMarco Murray. And here are some scouts that
DeMarco Murray wasn't a bad player, though. DeMarco Murray wasn't a bad player. No, he was a really good player. No, I'm just saying. But you all of a sudden, it's the credit. You have scouts that are doing their job, and then all of a sudden, it's like the last guy that gets to Jerry. It happened. We've talked about it a bunch with Ware. Oh yeah, Rick Goslin.
Rick Goslin was the last one to talk to Jerry Jones,
and thank God he saved him.
He did. He saved
him. Well, and all that to say, that went down a great path that I was happy to hear about. What I was expecting was, because I've heard you say it before, what I was expecting was you're going to say we did everything we could to find a quarterback. We never found the quarterback.
No, so we never did. We never.
Imagine if with a 4th round pick, though, Brian,
Tom Brady on the board.
You had found a quarterback in the 4th round, let's say.
Yeah.
And this quarterback was a guy. Yeah,
this
is a guy who
was
about
to lose your guy, aren't we, Bobby?
Boy, it feels like it, doesn't it?
Your guy's about to be in his last season potentially here, huh?
Oh, well, here's the deal. If you expose that quarterback to the open market, goodbye. You're resetting the quarterback position. Is my belief.
Go on record and say that?
Yep, 100%. If you expose him to the market, he's leaving, I think.
That's going to get clipped, Bobby. That's going to get clipped. And it's going to be out there for everybody to see.
Good. Hopefully the Cowboys have a healthy awareness of it in this instance. We're always like, don't take it out of context. But here's the deal. Yeah. If you would have found the second place MVP or a multi-time Pro Bowler in the 4th round with those teams you had, would you have been sitting there going, why are we wanting to start this process over again?
Yeah.
Why are we wanting to go through this experience again? Because that's what it feels like is happening right now. Ian Rappaport, as we record this podcast on Tuesday, tweets out the Cowboys and quarterback Dak Prescott have a mutual understanding of his contract situation, sources say, with no offers from Dallas, despite him being in a contract year, no indication a deal is coming. And then he follows that up with, this appears to clear the path for Dak Prescott to test free agency in 2025. And I know with these comments
down your face when that.
I know. No. Honestly,
no. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No. I know.
Done a hell of a job. He really has.
I know what these. There is no nuance, and if there's one thing that I think is really just awful about today's NFL commentary, it's trying to boil down who a player is based on, their select games that they've played in January. And I understand he's got to be better. He absolutely has to be better in the playoff run.
Killed for Dak Prescott in 2000.
And that's the you got to absolutely
2001, 2002. Yeah,
you need to play better in January. There's no doubt about it. But it's like sometimes you're a little bit like the guy who maybe you've been with a girl for a little bit too long. You start thinking, maybe I could do better. You know, I think I could do a little bit better. And it's like, man, I don't know. You realize how much you outkicked your coverage here. You better slow down a little bit. You're getting a little too comfortable, and then you go back out there and go, uh-oh, now what have I done? And I think that's what the Cowboys are doing. And I think in fact, I think there are a lot of Cowboys fans who are guilty of it. And there will be a lot of people in the comments section of what we talk about here or whatever else who are saying the same thing about, oh, Bobby, you don't know anything. I'm telling you, people within the league think you're wrong. And people within the league think the Cowboys are wrong in a lot of ways. There are a lot of people who think that there's nobody better in the NFL, even pre-snap at the line of scrimmage, getting guys into plays than Dak Prescott. And so the Cowboys appear willing to, well, we want to play things out a little bit, and then we'll go back to the negotiating table if we need to. If that is their strategy, Brian, they're going to be resetting the quarterback position, because I think they believe far too much in their ability to just, we'll just match whatever. I think your quarterbacks hit Cowboy fatigue, America's team fatigue over the last year, and you're really tempting fate. What are your thoughts on this, Brian?
I was going to ask you, because I think you're really plugged in on this deal. You're far more plugged in than I am, and so I want to ask you a few questions here, if I could.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, you said Cowboy fatigue?
Yep.
Does that have to do with every morning him waking up and listening about interceptions or lack of playoff wins or what they're going to do? Just. It seemed like that every show leading up in June into July was talking about Dak Prescott's and interceptions. And how many times have we seen Dak Prescott stand up there and take the arrows from the media, about interceptions, or when it's not even, a lot of the times it wasn't even his fault, And I don't think Dak Prescott was ever going to throw anybody under the bus about that, And I also say this: I think Dak Prescott, he fought through a very difficult time with Jason Garrett as his head coach. I mean, there's half his career has been spent with Jason Garrett as his head coach. Am I right about that?
Yep.
Pretty much. So, to me, and what I think about Jason, and it's nothing personal with Jason Garrett, but did you really maximize this guy? But I think that I agree with you on this. I think Dak looks at this as like, why do I have to put up with this crap every single day?
I think Dak has an understanding, a better
He's a
understanding.
Tough guy. He is tough.
I think he has a better understanding than most do, or most are even capable of having, about what it means to be the quarterback of America's team. I think he understands that. I think he welcomes it. I think he can shoulder it. That's not the problem. I think he's happy to stand up there and, like you mentioned, the shots from the media or wherever else, I think he is happy to take those and not take it personal. He's happy to stand in front of guys and I'll take the arrow.
A lot better than I would.
Yeah. I think where over the last year it's changed a little bit for him is, okay, there are people in this building firing them now. Yeah. It's not just coming from the media. Now I'm hearing about some of these arrows that I'm standing in the way of taking. They're coming from people here. Mm-hmm. They're coming in the way we're talking about the interceptions and the turnovers and things like that. Stuff where, and then I don't know that Dak thinks this. I'm not going to assume to get in his head, but I would, if I was in Dak's position and knowing what Dak knows and knowing what these people know, I would think, why am I taking shots from you when you know better? You know what happened here.
Yeah.
And that's where I think that things have shifted a little bit, is that the fatigue has set in on, okay, why am I up here hearing about interceptions that you guys know what happened on those plays? Why am I standing up here and having to deal with the emotions of saying goodbye to a really close friend in our quarterback room, and then 5 minutes later, that's the first time you're now presenting me in front of the public to talk about trading for Trey Lance, and you guys are having me stand up here and do. I just think there's a lot of those things that built up over time that it's like, okay, I'm willing to take it from on the outside because I understand that comes with the job, and I don't take it personal. When it's people here, now we got a problem. And when you're then telling me, and then when you're then telling me, well, you got to show it to me again. Then I think it's a little bit like, okay, well, if you're going to expose me, then I'm not going to do you any favors anymore.
I wonder what his real relationship is with Mike McCarthy. You know,
I think
I wonder.
I think it's
puts
better
on a brave face about
Yeah.
that a lot of the time, and I wonder if you start to talk about and McCarthy might just completely deny this and all that, but he started a lot of this though, didn't he? If you go back,
Yeah.
didn't he start about the?
He started
we
a lot of
gotta
the
run it,
conversation
we
about
gotta
the
do this,
interceptions.
and
Yeah.
he was. It's like that, and I wonder what his relationship is with Dak. I wonder what Dak's relationship is with Mike. I wonder if it's as good as everybody might think it is.
I think
Maybe
when
he's tired of that too, but Mike could be shown the door as well.
Yeah, I think when he's shown trust, when things are, hey, here you go, buddy, it's all on you. I think when he's given that, I think they're good.
Yeah.
I think when he's given room to do what he feels he's best at doing and isn't micromanaged, I think they're okay.
Right.
I think the problem is when things become a little too contentious at times. And look,
right.
I think if you were to ask Dak and Mike, maybe even on the record, definitely, I think if you ask them behind the scenes, but I think even if you ask them on the record, say, hey, have things always been great between you two?
Right.
I think they'd say better now than it has been in the past. Like, I mean, that naturally comes with some of the look. I think we've talked about it. You let go of Kellen Moore and Doug Nussmeier. Those are two people he was very, very close with.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he didn't totally love that or appreciate it, because you want to talk about tension that exists. I don't think Kellen Moore and Mike McCarthy are very close. I don't think that Doug Nussmeier and Mike McCarthy are very close.
Yeah. And
because of that, it's easy to go, well, those were my guys. You guys had a disagreement and now there's a split. I think it's easy to go that way. But I do think it's better now than it's been at any point. But there's got to be a bit of an understanding there. But we're in an interesting spot. Cowboys are in an interesting spot here with Dak Prescott. We'll see. It's very early on. You know who we need to talk to? You know who we need to reach out to? I'll tell you who. For our next episode later this week, Brian, I think we should reach out to Jory Epstein. We should get Jory on and ask her about
she's a Dak whisperer.
That is a great person to talk to. I saw her do a really good interview on Yahoo where she talked about some of the Cowboys' approach to things. So that's somebody we should probably talk to later this week. I was texting with Jory earlier today. She's an awesome person. Very proud that she started on the Dallas beat.
Yeah.
And she's gone on to become what she's become. But we'll definitely keep covering this. It's just where it stands right now. We're in an interesting spot here with the Cowboys.
So you would as we speak on March 26th.
Yes, sir.
You would say if Dak Prescott gets to free agency, it's over. There's no negotiating left.
I believe that's what would happen. Yeah, I believe he's gone.
I believe that,
I don't think you get to match.
Yeah, okay. I will say this, and I really like what Nick Harris. We had Nick Harris on 105.3 The Fan this afternoon on the G-Bag Nation.
Also very good at what he does.
And Nick brought up something of that maybe that you will see this being negotiated in November.
Could be.
That maybe that's when you'll start to see, okay, you win. Here we go. This is what we're going to do.
Can't let it get to March 25 though. Cannot let it get to March 2025. That's not going to work.
That's if it gets to the first day of, if it gets to tampering day, the Cowboys are likely done. I think you're right about that. But I wouldn't be surprised. And I asked Nick that question. I said, okay, is this something you're thinking about, or is this something, and the one great thing is when you work at the Star, the walls talk sometimes.
Yeah.
So maybe that's their approach and I like what Nick's saying with that.
Definitely something that, like I said, bears watching a lot to keep an eye on. Significant movement, significant report for me and Rappaport. And like I said, there are a lot of people who are probably thrilled hearing that and think, stupid segment y'all are having here. That's fine. I think in time that if it's something where he gets exposed to the market, I think in time you'll be feeling some regret in that sense. And so we'll see how it all progresses. You're listening to the Love the Star podcast, the Love the Stars and Odyssey podcast. You can find it on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Brian, we are here smack dab in the middle of draft season.
Hallelujah.
You know what? I'm going to throw you one quick hypothetical before we get to what we're really going to talk about here, which is offensive line approach, how the Cowboys are potentially looking at things. Here's the hypothetical for you. Let's say that Dallas was picking first this year. And whatever, they made a trade with the Panthers too. Not that they finished poorly, but they made a similar trade. They're sitting there picking first. Given the report we've heard today about Dak Prescott, what do you think they're doing with that first pick? Do you think they draft Caleb Williams?
I think they would. Yeah, Caleb Williams would probably be the top player on their board. Do
you think they draft him though?
I think they would.
I think they would too.
Yeah, I think they would too.
All right, very good. There's the hypothetical.
I think I would take Alt, the tackle from Notre Dame.
That's a big boy, man. Yeah. That is a big boy,
Tyler
Joe
Smith at left guard. But that's something that, how do you feel about that, Bob? If you just had to throw a dart at something, how do you feel? I mean, I'm from the school of, if they get the correct tackle, because if you say you get the right tackle, then you're thinking right tackle. But if you get the correct tackle, I think Tyler Smith stays in play. I wonder if there's a side of them that are like, nah, we're gonna go ahead and move Tyler Smith, and we're gonna figure out the guard spot, and then some way grab a center.
You know what? It's interesting that you say this, Brian, because Jerry Jones was out at owners' meetings this week talking to reporters, and one of the things it was brought up, the idea of Tyler Smith playing tackle, going to left tackle potentially. Right. And it's funny. Stephen Jones had said we've got we may have a Larry Allen situation on our hands. And I think a lot of people heard that went, well, Larry Allen was a guard. But I mean, it is important to look at what was said right after that in the context of what Stephen said. Stephen said may have a Larry Allen situation here where he could be an all-pro at tackle or guard. What a benefit. What a luxury. Sure. I think that was actually typical Stephen Jones being non-committal is what that was more than anything else.
Writing
a little bit, or just giving himself some flexibility. If I'm not showing you my cards, and I think that he wanted to leave the door open for both. And so I think there's a couple of different ways you could look at this. And really quick, let me address. Jerry Jones said, don't rule out the idea of Tyler Smith to left tackle. That's absolutely in play. That absolutely could end up being the case. So the Cowboys have put that on the table now officially, that Tyler Smith may be going back to left tackle, maybe playing left guard. We don't know which side he's going to go yet. They think he can do both. You remember Stephen consistently for a long time had said, we see his future at left tackle. And it was only recently where he shifted and went, well, maybe we could play him at both. Now Jerry kind of opening the door there. Here's the few different ways that I think you could look at this, Brian. This is a deeper, this is a stronger tackle class than it is a guard class.
Yes. But keep in mind, there's some of these tackles that could be guards.
Sure. Absolutely.
When you start to talk about Latham,
Fatanu, you're talking about Troy Fatanu, Jordan Morgan, J.C. Latham. All these guys have had this discussion about him.
There you go.
Yeah.
Those are first and second round tackles that could be considered guards. So maybe that will strengthen that room up a little bit.
Absolutely. But I think if you're talking like tackle one, like their position, their primary position, though, a lot more primary tackles who are of quality at the top of this draft than primary guards or primary centers for that matter. But I think that when you look at, there's a good group of tackles that would seem to argue in the favor of, hey, it'd be easier to draft a tackle, keep Tyler Smith at left guard. So that's one line of thinking. Another line of thinking may say, okay, but I mean, some of these tackles that might be in your area, that might be around your spot, could be guys like Tyler Guyton from Oklahoma, Amarius Mims from Georgia. Those guys are right tackles, and you haven't. And in Mims's case, you haven't seen a lot of film in general. So you'd be talking about, okay, well, how good are they flipping over to the left? And so there's some question there. And I think that you then look at it and go, okay, do we want to Do we want to pick somebody potentially who's a good tackle, but then either ask them to move inside the guard or move sides or then move Steele inside the guard or move this and that? There's some question that's involved there. Then there's the idea of let's pick best offensive lineman available, but let's go with the projection of let's give them some time a little bit to sit. Let's not go right ahead into the NFL. Let's just make sure that the thought process from a couple years ago. I don't think Joe Philbin wanted to start Tyler Smith that year. I think if Joe Philbin had
Joe Philbin was a fan of Tyler Smith.
I don't think he was either, but I think that if Tyler, I think Mike McCarthy was, God. But I think McCarthy even liked the idea because you remember Tyron Smith got hurt in training camp, and was lost until December, and I think that their plan initially would have been Connor McGovern at left guard and Tyron Smith at left tackle. I don't think Tyler Smith
like Connor McGovern, but I don't know if Joe Philbin did.
But I don't think Tyler Smith was going to start as a rookie that year.
Yeah.
Until they had to. God, so if
you're not helping me at all right
now.
So
here's what I'm saying are your options. You pick a tackle, you put Tyler Smith at guard. You pick a guard or a center, whatever, you move Tyler Smith out to tackle. Or no matter what you pick, you run Tyler Smith out there at left tackle, TJ Bass at left guard, Brock Hoffman at center, because you say, look, there's too much riding on the line for everybody right now. Dak's apparently career is in limbo. McCarthy's is. We may draft somebody and develop them, but we're not putting this on the line with a rookie this year. So those are the thought processes the Cowboys could have going into this one. As we look,
player then at 24, other than an offensive lineman, you would take.
Because
that's what you've convinced me to do. You're telling me Tyler Smith is going to play left tackle. You're telling me that TJ Bass is going to play left guard, and you're telling me that Brock Hoffman is going to play center.
I think that's at least a possibility that they could look at depending on who falls to them.
Yeah. Okay, well, then we're not taking an offensive lineman in the first round.
Then tell me this, Brian. Which position would you, outside of offensive line, which position would you say I really need to get somebody here?
Do they have a one technique? And they did it last year. They damn drafted Mozzie Smith.
Yeah, do they?
They really don't. They don't really have a one technique. They don't have. Do
you think they could be convinced? Do you think the Joneses could be convinced to do that again?
Man, I wouldn't want to do it. But Will McClay, we've got video from the war room
arguing Mozzie over Matthew Bergeron at Syracuse. Yep,
sure is.
But would they say, okay, we did that last year, we're not going to do it again? Is that how they would approach it potentially?
How do they look at their team?
All right, tell me this.
They don't. Mike Zimmer needs to step in there and say, you don't have a one. The linebacker got cleaned up a little bit with, Kendricks,
a little bit, yeah.
Cleaned up a little bit, still needs some work. The safety, we talk about interchangeable guys. That's big on Zimmer. He really doesn't want short corners. He wants sticky guys. He doesn't want grabby guys. He wants interchangeable safeties. Marquise Bell is, he's probably going to be back playing at safety, not playing at linebacker. So
let me throw this at you. Let me throw this to you.
Could you take an edge? Could you take Verse?
Okay. I'll give you this option. You're talking about picking an offensive lineman who you have a first round grade on, pick whoever you want, knowing, let's say, that they're going to sit for a year. Okay, let's just throw that out there as possible.
Slug me right.
No. Hey, this is an opportunity to choose your own adventure, Brian. Offensive lineman, knowing they're going to sit for a year potentially, and I'm not saying that's the direction they go. This is just a hypothetical.
Coach afford that?
But here's the thing. Let's say you pick a. Who's one of you? Who's an offensive lineman that you'd be thrilled if they slid to you at 24? Any of them?
You know what? I love that. I know the center's just banged to bits. I think there's those questions.
What about Fatanu? Would you be thrilled if Fatanu got to 24?
Hell yes.
Okay, Fatanu. Let's say Fatanu's sitting there. You. If I tell you can pick Fatanu, but
he has to sit.
But he has to sit for a year, or you can pick Chop Robinson. and get him rotational snaps, and also knowing it's DeMarcus Lawrence's last year probably.
I wonder what people are going to think of Latu from UCLA.
I'm going to be concerned about somebody who's been medically retired.
Yeah. Verse a first round guy for you?
Verse is my top edge.
See? Could Verse get to you, or you think Verse
I don't think so.
You think he's gone?
So. Yeah.
See, I'm if that's the case, I'm looking at Murphy's a 3. Murphy's from Texas is a 3. Newton is a 3 from Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have the opportunity for Sweat and Fisk. I have Sweat over Fisk. Fisk is a damn good player. Would you draft? Is Cooper going to be there for you, the linebacker?
He'll be there at 24. I don't think you're in that purgatory spot. I don't think he gets to you in the second round.
No, there's no way. Jeez.
So would you take Chop Robinson knowing he'll play more than Fatanu, or would you take Fatanu knowing he has to sit, if that was the arrangement?
I would have Fatanu is over Chop Robinson in my book.
But if you're talking about just if you know you can't use him for a year, whereas Robinson, you get him now.
You know what? You're really pissing me off now.
It's not. This is a hypothetical. If Fatanu falls to Fatanu, may start.
Because I don't. You know what? I had a first round pick last year that sat.
Where do you have Fatanu, by the way? Is he guard or tackle for you?
He's a tackle.
Okay. You think he could play both?
Easily.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where if you get Fatanu, would you put Fatanu at tackle and keep Tyler Smith at left guard?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I would.
I think that's really good.
See, the one thing that I know these guys could do, and I said it a million damn times here, Bob, is that these guys, when they pick a first round lineman, they tend to work out really, really well. It's a plug and play, you know? I mean, Fatanu, man, just watch his tape. See, I like Morgan, and I'm worried that they think Morgan's a guard. I'm worried about that. You know?
I could see.
Scares the hell out of me because of only playing 8 games, and it's the old floor and ceiling bit, you know? So, I don't know.
So would you let's say it's Morgan. Would you take Morgan and
Morgan could play guard for
Morgan? Would you take Morgan knowing let's say if it was that they viewed Morgan as a guard, would you be okay with Morgan at guard and Tyler Smith at tackle? Would you accept that?
This is going to sound crazy. I would rather have Alabama play the guard and play Tyler Smith at tackle.
And I don't think Latham's going to get anywhere near you. You know what the chatter, at least I don't have any clue if this is realistic, but there's some chatter that some people think Fashanu's starting to slide.
Well, you know what? I was watching.
You would take Fashanu in a.
I was kind of peeking. You know, you peek. You know, you're watching Wallace, and then you're like, Fashanu. Okay, what did he do in this play? You know,
Wallace is a more pro-ready player to me.
Yeah,
I think Wallace is ready to take snaps as I think Wallace could step in and
between Rosengarten from Washington or Wallace at Penn State. I'm playing with Rosengarten.
Oh, I think a lot of people have Rosengarten over him.
Yeah. But
Wallace, I think, is ready to play right now more than Fashanu is. I think Wallace is a better technician right now at this point. I don't see Wallace getting, and we're talking about Caden Wallace, the right tackle at Penn State versus Olu Fashanu. I don't ever see, Wallace is just never really in a bad position, and Wallace is not getting worked over by people. I never see him.
That Penn State game.
Do you ever see Wallace on the ground?
Penn State, Michigan. I'm not saying he's on the ground.
No, but not on the ground. I never see him chasing somebody with his hands out, trying to got worked by. I don't see him getting turned around very often. To me, he's just steady.
This is me, Bobby, and I saw this guy recently. So this is not an early scouting report. This is the last few days because I'm trying to get these last few tackle guys. You know, I wanted to make sure I had them right.
Yep.
But I've typed a line in my report that says has his moments where he's really good, then others where it's hold on to your hat. I don't know if his footwork is always the best, but I think his length is because his hands are really, really, really low. And I don't know if he's always quick enough to get him up and reset and ready to go.
And you're talking about Fashanu here?
No, I'm talking about Wallace.
Oh, Wallace. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the longer he has to block, the harder it is for him to sustain his block.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about here in Dallas where they
right.
want to get the ball out in 2 seconds.
But you're right, because you said something about being on the ground. Second to last line is not on the ground, but at times is damn close. That's kind of how I see this guy.
I look at him as just steady across the board. Is he a mauler?
Hey.
No, but he's not consistently getting beat. He's steady. He's balanced.
I'm wrong about these guys too. That's what I'm doing.
No. Relax. You're mad still that I'm suggesting that Troy Fatanu sits on the bench for a year. It's a hypothetical.
I don't
Brian.
want him to sit on the bench.
I know you don't.
See, that's the problem. All right, let me ask you this, Bobby.
Yeah.
Does this
real quick? We're going to carry this conversation over. I just need to pause real quick.
Okay.
Tell people this is the Love the Star podcast. It is an Odyssey podcast. You can find it on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Brian, hit me with the. I know you're loaded up. You're on fire right now.
About to Pat Benatar, you hit you with your best shot.
All fired up.
Hey, the thing. I mean, I'm just sitting there thinking about, just. Can this coaching staff afford to have anybody sit? Can Mike McCarthy, Brian Schottenheimer, Mike Zimmer, can they afford to have anybody sit?
Well, here's what I would say. So I think
you're pissing me off, Bobby. You know that.
What last year, think of a time when I think of a time of when did offensive line, when was there a moment where the offensive line really burned them in a couple single moments and really affected the game? I think of Chuma Doga against Miami.
Yeah.
And what was the problem? Doga didn't know what he was supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And I think that sort of thing.
That's their fault for not getting Awesome Richards ready and to be fair,
I don't know this.
Guys aren't good enough.
Well, and to be fair, I don't know this. I don't know this. Maybe they feel like Awesome Richards was even worse understanding the assignments, and they thought Adoga as a veteran should have been better. I think that it didn't work out with Adoga, and they won't go back to that well. But I think maybe they look at it and go, I can't afford to have Adoga moments from a rookie. I need somebody who knows what they're going to do, and I think they probably feel like TJ Bass is going to know what to do. Like, is it going to be great? I don't know, but he's not going to beat us with just being in the wrong spot. I don't think Brock Hoffman's going to beat us with being in the wrong spot. I think I just wonder if that's the thought process.
You know what? You're plugged in. You're plugged in on this stuff. The thing that I would, if it's the Washington tackle, and I could keep Smith at guard, and then somehow, I grab like the Penn State center, or Limmer, I grab the Arkansas guy, I just feel like that I would be better off. I feel, and I get it. I mean, if I'm Mike McCarthy, I get, and the coaching staff, I get how they're going to die. That's why Mike McCarthy at the owners meetings is talking about, we're happy. We need some young guys to step up and all that.
Which would you rather? I'm going to throw you another hypothetical here. Would you rather, let's say Fatanu gets down to you. Yeah. How close is Fatanu to Jackson Powers Johnson, for instance, for you? The center at Oregon.
The Washington tackles in the second round, the Oregon centers in the first.
Okay, so this may answer my hypothetical then.
Yeah.
If I told you
I put that, let me be honest with you. I put Powers Johnson in a place where, if he's there, I want to take him.
Okay, well let's look at this.
That's where I put him there.
Knowing maybe the center's banged up, okay? And you're talking about moving somebody. Okay? If I tell you that, let's say Fatanu and Powers Johnson are both sitting there, and your combination is going to be, okay, if I take Fatanu, the tackle at Washington, it's Fatanu at left tackle, Tyler Smith at left guard, Brock Hoffman at center. That's what I'm rolling with. If I take Powers Johnson, I'm moving Tyler Smith to left tackle. I'm putting TJ Bass at left guard, and I'm putting Powers Johnson at center. Which combo would you prefer? You would prefer that one.
Let's go.
Even with the questions about the health potentially on Powers Johnson?
Yeah, because you know what? The things that I think that are wrong with Powers Johnson, I think that there's some other NFL players have had the same conditions. He's dealing with some hip stuff. I've seen players that have kind of fought through that, played through that. So he's just so damn good, you know. Now I love Frazier. I love Frazier from West Virginia.
Zach Frazier, yeah.
And I have him over Barton. And the only reason I have him over Barton is because I've never seen Barton play center. You know, I've never seen him play center.
Where's
everybody tells me he's a center.
Where's Hunter Norzad for you, the center at Penn State?
Okay, this is where I'm at right now. I've got 2 guards left. I'm trying to get down. I'm like in those 5th, 6th round guys right now. Mm-hmm. And so him and a guy named Dylan McMahon from North Carolina State are the 2 centers that I've got to watch.
Okay. So, well, then let me ask you, Van Pran, he's 3rd round for you?
Van Pran is in the 3rd, yes.
Okay, that's Van Pran, the center at Georgia.
Johnson, Powers Johnson, Oregon in the 1st. And then I got Frazier and Barton in the 2nd. Van Pran in the 3rd, Georgia. Limmer from Arkansas in the 4th. And is it Bortolini?
Bortolini from Wisconsin.
Wisconsin in the 4th too.
What if I tell you then the combo is Fatanu, Tyler Smith at left guard, and Bortolini at center next year versus Powers Johnson, Bass at left guard, Tyler Smith at left tackle? Would you still rather have Powers Johnson in that instance? Yeah. Because you like Bass.
I like Bass a lot. And the one thing I appreciate
I think this team believes, by the way, and we've talked about this, I don't think it's just
Hoffman scares me.
I think they believe Hoffman could get them. I think they believe he could be a starter in the league, not necessarily a top 2 starter, but I think they believe Brock Hoffman could start games in the NFL, and I think they believe TJ Bass. I think they absolutely believe Bass could start games in the NFL.
I've seen Bass play in the NFL.
And he's done it well.
Play very, very well in the NFL. You know, the center, God darn it, he's nicked up, and I don't know. I mean, like I said, you need to really dig in on that Oregon center. You need to dig in and really, really figure out what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a question. There are a lot of questions out there. A lot of questions still to be answered.
Bobby, I really do.
We're dealing. You know what it's going to end up being, We're going to get the miracle. Joe Alt is going to slide. He's going to have a CeeDee Lamb slide all the way to 24. They're going to take Joe Alt there at 24. He's going to be a monster. Mm-hmm. And they're gonna go 17-0. Brian, Dak's gonna get the new contract. They're gonna win the Super Bowl. It's gonna be all okay. Okay.
I've reached out to Laramie Tunsil, and I wanted to see if we could borrow the gas mask for
for Joe Alt. Hey, you've got in the era of AI.
How crazy was that though? Think about how crazy that was.
That's way up there.
That is way out there. I've never in my life seen
Would you have loved to have been in the war room of a team picking top 10 that needed an offensive lineman when that happened?
Tunsil's got the
just
big,
to see. Yeah, you told us
like he's fighting the Axis.
You told us. I just remember that was so funny when we're sitting in a bar in 2016. He's got that mask on, and we're all watching it. And I remember I was there with Patrick Walker from DallasCowboys.com, and I said, "You can't even tell that's him." And then he takes the mask off. And I was like, "Well, never mind. That's him."
It's so like I remember we were doing the draft show, getting ready for the draft.
Yeah,
like Dane Brugler. You should have seen Dane's face. Dane's like, "Oh my God, what just happened?"
Is that for you? Is that the modern day equivalent of when you guys get told on draft day, "Hey, Warren Sapp failed the drug test"?
Yeah, that's
the modern day version of it.
Warren Sapp right there. Except we saw it with our own eyes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, what a time. All right, that does it for us here today on the Love the Star podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll have another episode for you later this week. Like I said, hopefully I need to reach out to Jory. We should see if Jory should come on and talk about some of this stuff. There's plenty to talk about right now. For Brian, I will be out in Frisco for 2 days this week at his Big 12 Combine. So I'll be out there. Hopefully, get a chance. I think your boy Cooper Beebe is going to be out there, or Zach Wolchuk's guy.
He's like a Coke machine with arms.
I need to. I'll get eyes on him for Zach. I'll tell him Zach Wolchuk loves him. For Brian Broaddus, I'm Bobby Belt. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk to you again later. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest updates. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.